Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy our podcast, to make sure to give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Sarah Burke on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from Ontario, Canada. She's an IFBB Pro qualified women's physique division competitor. She's a mom of 4, and she's also the owner of Fierce Fitness, but most importantly, she's our current guest. Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Ryan.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory first off? What inspired and what motivated you to get in shape and really adapt this healthy and fit lifestyle?
Well, actually, I would have to say it was my elementary school sweetheart that I'm now married to with our 4 boys. I always hated fitness. I hated gym. I was shy. I didn't like to do any type of sports. I was not active. I was about 18 years old when I was pregnant with my second son. And after I had him, or before I had him, sorry, I started getting into fitness. And I was actually high risk pregnancy with him. So I was supposed to be bedridden in a hospital from 3 months up, and I went to the hospital around 6 months, and they were shocked when he came out 5.5 weeks early, super strong, and I was very healthy and quick to bounce back with how much I started working out, and I continued to work out during my pregnancy. So after I had him, I went right back into working out. So basically from 21 to now I'm 33, I haven't stopped working out. It was 7 years ago, 2010, sorry. So 9 years ago when I started teaching Zumba. I got certified and started teaching Zumba. And it quickly grew from there. I went and got certified in TRX and started teaching that. Me and my sister opened a studio, Fierce Fitness, that I then took sole proprietorship on, and I now am still running that studio out of Dunnville, Ontario. We have about 200 plus members. I have 15 Zumba instructors, 4 personal trainers, and I have inspired a few other fitness studios in Dunnville to open up and teach Zumba or other classes or weight training. So for the bodybuilding, that was my husband's idea. I'm very shy. I don't like to put myself out there. So when he suggested doing bodybuilding, I Googled it and I was like, I can't wear heels. Are you kidding me? I'm a tomboy. This is not going to work. So we went and met Mindy O'Brien, and immediately fell in love with her personality, how amazing inside and out she is. So when I went and met her, she told me I would be women's physique was my body type, which made me happy because women's physique, you do not have to wear high heels. So I was like, all right, let's do this. And for 2 years now, I've been training for bodybuilding. And like you said, I wish you could touch weights and get big because I'm still too small every time I step on that stage. I train 6 days a week with 1 rest day. And my husband works way more than I do, thankfully. I do more of the kid stuff. He does more of the studio stuff and the training. But I do get my trainings in, and the studio, thankfully, he runs it most of the time. I do all the background stuff where he's just there and I get to be at home with the kids. But he trains me. If he doesn't have time to train me, I go in and do it on my own. I get up before my kids are awake. I go in, I do my cardio. I go home, get them ready for school. I take them to school. Then I go to the studio. I do my workouts and then pick them up from school, do stuff with them, go and teach my classes if I have classes to teach, or train clients if I have clients to train. I'm major for nutrition. So I do a lot of the women's and men's meal plans, and I run 12-week challenges. So I'm the coach for the 12-week challenges. And so I've done 6 bodybuilding shows now. I've placed top 5 in all shows. And I now have a girl that I'm coaching, Sarah Hauser, to do her first figure show in November. So that's pretty cool.
That is a lot of stuff, and that's just such an awesome story that you were able to take that and really just begin this journey off of that. But one of the questions that I love to ask all of the health and fitness guests that I have on is, when you first started going into the gym, I always say, if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape, whether it comes down to, their diet, their nutrition, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. So many little things add up to the overall package that people end up seeing. Was that a struggle for you, sort of figuring out what worked best for your body?
No, it was my body actually responded really quickly. And that was surprising because I never had the fitness body growing up. I just was very, very bad posture, no confidence. Just like I said, I was a no body shape at all. I worked very hard. Even your glutes, let me tell you, those are hard to build. And I'm still working on that. Um, but when trying to figure out what I was doing, I used to do overall functional training. So I would just work out to basically push my body to its limits. I would see how heavy I could squat, how much I could deadlift, how fast I could run, how many reps of a kettlebell I could swing. I was all about basically feeling like you want to die after your workout. I love those types of trainings. So when we switched to bodybuilding, which is isolating one muscle group, that was a struggle for me to wrap my head around doing my 6 to 15 reps, depending on what it is, and then just sitting there for 45 seconds and then going back and then sitting there. So that was a struggle for me to learn how to sit and rest, but that is how your muscles grow. So learning how to build my body wasn't hard, but adapting to the type of training for what I'm working towards for my goals was hard.
No, yeah, that's definitely something that I had to deal with too, because I am more one of those high intensity people where then you're just like, oh, I got to sit around now in between these sets. And yeah, that's definitely a struggle that I've gone through as well. But one of the questions that I also love to ask, because everyone's genetics are differently, what was one body part when you were getting started that really, really took off? And then everyone always has that one body part that just absolutely just lags behind where they just have to train to overdrive. I'll give you my answers first, real quick. For me, I mean, my back was one thing that really, really took off because I've had jobs all throughout college where I was, lifting and loading trucks and just doing that. Basically, you either got a really good back or you quit. So that's the one thing for me. But I'm also 6'3", so I mean, my lower body is just absolutely shot where I have to train it into overdrive to get it to look like any semblance like I lift legs at all. Which I mean, as you can tell from my facial expressions right now, I really, really enjoy that. So yeah, those were my areas. But what were those for you when you were getting started?
So my chest has always been, women always compliment my chest, but my legs have always been really easy for me to build. That was a struggle for me for bodybuilding because I used to squat 320 pounds. And when I was following my coach's orders to do 6 to 8 reps, well, I was squatting 320 pounds. So I was building my legs massive instead of toning them that I should have been doing for bodybuilding. So that was a struggle to get them to tone down, but my legs have always been easy for me to grow. And I love working out legs and I love working out chest.
No, yeah, and I always say calves for me are the number one pet peeve for me, where I just, it's that's just naturally genetically built. Where I just look at someone with nice calves, and I'm just like, oh my god, yeah, they didn't have to train a day in their life for that. But when you were getting into bodybuilding, because I always say, if you were to talk to the general public, 95% of people do not realize that just to be able to get into shape to go on a prep takes so much hard work, determination, dedication. 95% of them wouldn't be able to do it. But when you go on a prep, that is notching things up to an extreme level of, you got to get all of your workouts in, you got to get all of your meals in. Everything just got to be so timed and so scientific, basically. What was that adjustment like for your lifestyle, and knowing that you also have 4 kids as well that you have to take care of, and living this super scientific and specific lifestyle where everything's got to be done on time?
Yes. So I used to get up at like 7:30 and rush in the mornings and constantly yell because everyone wasn't ready or I was going to be late. So in order to get everything in, I had to get up at 4:30 in the morning to go do my workouts, my cardio, go back home, get the kids ready for school, to go back later that day to do more cardio. So I had to literally just get up 3 hours earlier, but I wanted it. I wanted it. I knew I wanted it. I was mentally focused. That's a major thing. So if you're not mentally there, if you don't have the support system around you, you won't do it. Like you can't do it. You need the support. You need the mental, I don't know.
Toughness.
Yeah, mental strength. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then the physical and the eating. If you're, like I said, if you're not mentally there, then when you have that bad days, you're going to give into the cravings because we're all emotional eaters. We all have issues eating. We all like cravings. We all like sweet treats and our sugars that we shouldn't be having. So if you're not mentally there when you have your bad day at work, or your husband or your girlfriend or your kid or whoever makes you mad, you're going to give into those cravings. And if you're not mentally focused, then your your goal wasn't bigger than or what I'm trying to say. Messed it up.
Your goal wasn't
Yeah.
bigger than your stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to figure out what you really, really want. Because I have another girl, she wants me to coach her, and she at least twice a week will cancel on something. And she's got 3 kids, so I understand. And she runs her own business too, so it's understandable. But you can't want this that bad. Then you have to pick your wants. You have to make it work. And if it's not going to work, then just admit it's not going to work and keep working out for life.
Yeah.
Don't compete because it's a lot of money.
Yep, that's one thing that I found out as well, and I always find that interesting. The people that talk about how they get up like at 4 or 4:30. I work nights, so I'm going to bed usually around like 4 o'clock. So I always find that interesting. The people that are getting up right as soon as I'm going to sleep, which I mean, yeah, that's very very fascinating. But yeah, it just shows to the hard work and the dedication that having that, especially just competing alone, really takes on the person. But one of the questions that I always love to ask, because if again, if I were to poll, 95% of people that I talk to, this would be a struggle that I don't think any of them would say that they realize that competitors specifically go through. But out of all the competitors that I've talked to, probably the biggest struggle for them is posing. I mean, it's harder than your nutrition. It's harder than your dieting. For a lot of competitors, would have never guessed that in a million years. But I like to say now, I like to compare it kind of now to being a perfect driver, where you can be a great driver, you can never be a perfect driver. You can be a great poser, you can never be a perfect poser. It's always ever evolving. What has your experience with posing been like?
Oh my gosh. There's been a show. So there was one show where I didn't do as much posing practice as I should have. And when I hit that stage, thankfully I won that show. I knew that as soon as I hit that stage, I should have been practicing. I was fast, I was off beat, I couldn't slow myself down. I was so nervous. And then thinking the whole time, oh my gosh, you should have been posing. This would have been better if you did. Posing is an art. If you are not posing as much as you are in there working out, then just don't even hit that stage. You have to every day at least 20 minutes pose. Like you said, that's the show. You're going up there and you can hide your flaws on stage. You can accent your better your strengths or whatever, but you can't hide your posing. If you can't pose, they're like, what is this girl even doing? I go for posing lessons every Saturday, even if I'm not competing or I don't have a show in mind. Every Saturday, I'm there for an hour doing my posing lessons.
I always say, even if you had the most ripped and shredded physique in the entire planet, if you don't know how to pose, good luck with that. But what is your favorite pose to do for women's physique, and what is your least favorite pose to do?
I really love the back pose, the back double, just because I love my back. I have a great back, but my camis aren't there, so I really have to work on them still. So my chest pose, I guess, would have to be my favorite.
Yeah. I was going to say the back, though, the other positive thing about the back, I mean, whether you're even a bikini, a figure, or physique, is that you can kind of let your face rest down. I mean, you don't have to be, smiling the entire time. You kind of just be like, oh, okay, I can kind of get my breath in. Yeah, if I ever competed, that would probably be the one pose, too, where that would probably be my favorite, where I can just be like, oh my God, I can relax now. But and like you were talking about too, one thing that I was super shocked by is that for a lot of these people, just their posing sessions, it's more of a workout than some of their workouts that they go through. And I always, talk about how, a lot of guests after a show, they talk about how they're the most sore that they've ever been just from all of the because people don't realize you can be on there for, some people have been on there for like half an hour, basically just in pose downs where you got to be flexing that entire time. And that is not what muscles were really meant to be, is flexed, for that extended period of time. But one of the fun questions that I love to ask is, because as you can tell, I'm one of the palest people you'll ever meet in your entire life. Never been tanned a day in my life. I'm one of those people, my thick Norwegian skin, where if I go out in the sun for an extended period of time, I'm just going to get burnt to an absolute crisp, or I get farmer's tan, where, let's be honest, that's not a real tan. But I always like to ask the bodybuilders, because they get to get tan for their shows. What is that feeling, and what is that experience like for you when you get that tan on? Because we hear so many stories about how, you see everything pop out and you see muscles that you never even knew that you had. What is that experience like?
Okay, so to be honest, if anyone says it's a nice experience,
oh no, I know the experience is horrible, but yeah, but what's the feeling like?
But yeah, the way it makes your body look, the tan is everything. Like unreal. And women's physique, you get tanned more than the figure girls and more than the bikini girls. So I usually get sprayed down by the time I'm done like 6 times. And yeah. And if anyone hasn't been spray tanned, it's not a nice experience. It's cold air, and then you stand in front of a cold fan. So it sucks, but you do. It makes your muscles pop. I'm always, when I see my pictures before my tan, I'm like, oh God, I have to step on stage tomorrow. And then I get my tan. I'm like, okay, I can step on stage tomorrow. It makes a huge difference.
I always gotta say, the first time I heard really what goes on, like how you guys get your tan and what you guys are like when you get that tan, I did not believe it, and I was like, "No, you're lying. That's not true." And then after like the second and third guest like said that too, I was like, "Okay, that's ridiculous." But yeah, I'm not gonna. Anyone, you can look that up if you want to find out what it's like for that. But yeah, it's when I first heard that, I was like, okay, there's no way. So again, I have learned so much through this podcast that is just I just adds even on more to what it's like to go through to get ready for these shows. But another thing, especially when you get your tan. You can't sit on anything. You can't stand up against anything. You got to bring your own bed sheets is another thing that we hear of all the time. And you just
Own bed sheets, your own clothes, and if you get anything on any of their stuff, you get charged out the wazoo. Yeah, it's crazy.
it's just basically like a checklist of like the stuff that all these people have to go through to get into bodybuilding. You're just checking off one after the other. But now a question that I love to ask all of my guests, whether they be, my bands or my health and fitness. For my bands, I always like to ask, what is that like going on stage and performing live in front of hundreds to thousands of people? But that also applies to the bodybuilders. What is that feeling like for you when you finally get to step on stage and show off all of that hard work that you've been prepping for months upon months for?
It's an amazing feeling. It's scary. It's overwhelming. It feels good for sure. I always wish it was longer because my husband's like, you train for 6 months to a year for this for 30 seconds. I'm like, well, when you say it like that, it kind of sucks. So it does, but it feels good and then when you step off stage and the very first show I did, I had people coming up for me out of the audience telling me I should have won that show. I was ripped from it. There's no way. And like when you hear your friends say it, you're like, okay, you're just saying that because you're my friends. But these people didn't even know me. So it was an amazing experience.
Does that 30 seconds feel like forever though when you're on stage?
Absolutely. And my favorite part is being up there with all the girls doing our poses. Like I hate being up there alone. I'm more confident when I'm up there with everybody else.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. And now another fun question: what is your go-to post-show meal?
Um, I usually takes me a good week and a half before I actually do a cheat
Oh, wow.
because I love my body so much that I'm just like, no, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna stay here. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have a chocolate bar here and there. And then I'm like, F it, let's have a burger and fries. So I'll usually right after show, I always go and have an avocado salad with chicken, or some chicken and rice is what I usually do after a show. So we'll hit up like Jack Astor's usually.
You are like the first person that I've ever had on over like the 100 bodybuilders that I've had on that has said that they wait a week and a half after their show before they're finally able that willpower. I mean, good. I can't even fathom that because I always said if I competed, I would just go to a Five Guys afterwards and just be like, "Here's $1,000. I'm buying you out for the night. You're gonna feed me until I either throw up, die, or just pass out. But either way, I'm getting my money's worth." But that also kind of leads us into probably the most important question that I love to ask on this podcast because a big myth that I think the general public, because a lot of them are ill-informed and they don't really understand, is that so many people believe that look that you guys present on stage, that is sustainable. They don't realize that, you're dieted down, you've sort of manipulated your body through all of the working out and through all of the training and nutrition to a look that is not sustainable. Where, I mean, so many people, they see these bodybuilders in public and they don't realize that they're actually bodybuilders because they might be in their off-season look and they just say like, oh, they just look like they train a lot and they just look like they're in really great shape. They don't realize that, hey, underneath that, look at them a couple months from now and they'll look like, just basically like these incredibly shredded people. But what was that experience like when you first realized that, like, hey, like you're talking about, like the week and a half afterwards where you're trying to just keep that look? What was that like adjusting to the fact that, hey, I am not going to be able to look this lean or this good for a long time? Was that a struggle for you? And has it been easier as time's gone on to sort of accept that look that you present on stage is not going to be something that you're going to be able to keep?
Yes. So my first show, going back to the what do you eat? My very first show that I did, I didn't eat anything. I think I had Wendy's on our way home. And then I hit up like a donut place. I ate like 3 donuts before I got home. We stopped at Dairy Queen. I ate a Dairy Queen like Reese's Pieces, Score, cookie dough, ice cream. We stopped somewhere else. I ate something else, like 3 chocolate bars. When I got home, I videoed myself dying on the couch, and every show I play that video so I don't do that again, because it's not a nice feeling. Like the way the sugar makes your body feel afterwards, it's not a nice feeling. It's okay to do carbs, but like the sugars, they really don't feel good on your body. Um, Going back to the question, now I forget what the question was.
Oh, just when realizing that you're not gonna be able to maintain this look and that stage lean, like what are some how has it gotten easier for you, or what are some ways that you like to try to make sure that like you're not just like freaking out, realizing that like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to look this good for this extended period of time.
So going back to my first show when I did that, literally the next day went from 119 pounds show day. That day I was up to 140 pounds from just water intake and the crappy food. So it was the worst experience. And then looking at my body, and then it made me even more depressed. So then I would just eat crappy food, and I just got bigger and bigger and bigger very fast. My second show, it wasn't as bad. My third show, again, it got easier. The show I just did, like I said, it was a good week. Actually, I think it was almost 2 weeks before I ate anything bad. And it's a lot easier. And looking at your body show ready, like you're like, damn, like that's what I look like. Holy shit, look at these photos of me. They're like Instagram material. Oh my God. And then like, you're like, oh my God, that's fluffy and big and fat, and nobody wants to look at that. Meanwhile, you're still jacked and ripped, and like anyone would die to look like you. And so this show, accepting that that's not gonna happen and that you literally can't walk around that, this last show, so it was my 6th show, I'm okay with it. I'm sitting at 154 pounds right now from 132 is what I was on show day, and I'm 5'3". So, and I'm very muscular, I'm thick, and I still have abs, and I still have definition in my legs. So that's major for me. So if I don't see definition in my legs, I will go on a meal plan myself, and I will start cutting, because I know I'm holding too much and I'm eating too much. Right now, yesterday, I started intermittent fasting. So I want to drop like 10 pounds. So I'll do that for about 2 weeks, and then I'll sit at 145 pounds and then put muscle back on and just keep doing that for a bit. And then around about November, I'll go on a meal plan, a strict one, and I'll start prepping for June's Toronto Pro Show again.
And just to show everyone how thick or how muscular she really is, I am a foot taller than her, and I only outweigh her by about 50 pounds. So that's unbelievable. And I'm not a string bean myself. So yeah, that's just incredible. But one of the myths that I love to talk about also on this podcast, and we talked about this before we started recording, and she mentioned it earlier on, is it's gotten better the last 5 years due to Instagram and other sources like that, but there are still so many women that have that fear where if they pick up one weight, they do one push-up, they do one pull-up, they're going to put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. And I always say to that, sign me up. I'd spend my entire life savings on that person. They'd become the first ever trillionaire. They'd become the hottest commodity that's probably ever lived. I mean, let's be honest, the government would kidnap them and probably do like genetic studies on them and, make sure that they could pass their genes onto basically every person. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, I bet, being with Fierce Fitness and dealing with so many different people that you still hear that all the time. How do you like to respond to that?
It's funny because I have women that come in, and I try to wear 3/4 length shirts at my gym for that reason, because I have women that come in and they have honestly said, they're like, I just want to work out, but I don't want to look like you. And I'm like, I'm a bodybuilder. Honey, you can't look like me. Even if you tried, it's going to take you a long ass time. I hear it all the time. I wasn't scared because I know it doesn't happen like that. I've been around people that trained. My sister was always into fitness, and her husband, and watching them and how hard they ate and trained to get the body type they had, I knew it was work.
And yeah, and honestly, I always like to tell the story of, just going to the gym and with a friend of mine, and she would always say, like, Ryan, I really want to go to the gym with you, but I'm just afraid that I'm going to get too bulky. And I told her, look, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse, she had a very, very heavy purse, weighs more than 90% of the dumbbells in the gym when we go out to like clubs or when we go out to get something to eat. So yeah, I don't know what she had in that purse, but that just sort of convinced her. But then she's like, oh yeah, I can, go. And then once she started going to the gym and just realizing that, hey, that's totally a myth, it really, really helped her out. But also adding on to that question, one thing that I think impacts, especially women, so much more than it does guys positively is the confidence boost that working out gives you. How have you been able to take that confidence boost and adapt it to other aspects of your life? Because I always say that is the one thing that you can take from working out and really have it affect every other single aspect of your life.
Yeah. So even when Fierce Fitness fell into my lap, basically it was I just started teaching Zumba, which I didn't even want to do. Again, like I said, I wasn't into fitness. My sister kind of was like, "You need to come to my class." I went to one of her classes. The next day, she's like, "You need to teach the song." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I faced the wall. I then found out that you're never supposed to face the wall. You're always supposed to face your participants so you can tell if they're breathing. I didn't want to face them. I didn't want them looking at me. I wanted nothing to do with them. So coming from that, I used to, like I said, face the wall, not look at anyone. Now, even just with posture, I walk into a room and I'm not with my head held down. I'm not like, are these people judging me? Are they looking at me? I'm like, I don't care if they're judging me, that's on them. It doesn't matter because I know at the end of the day, I have to be happy with myself.
Oh yeah, and plus if I looked like that, I'd be strutting into the room all the time. I don't know what I'd be talking about. I'd just be coming in to be like, "Oh yeah, hey everybody." But yeah, just that confidence boost. I mean, we've had people that have, made life-changing decisions that's inspired them to, make other drastic changes for their lives positively. So I really cannot talk more about that. But two of the questions that I love to also ask the health and fitness guests that I have on, for me, for the first one, there have been so many positive things that have happened, from working out and getting bigger and stronger for me. But one of the negative things are you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars or water bottles or anything like that. If anyone's struggling with anything, I mean, I'm still at home with my parents until I move out in 2 months. And basically, every time they come home with groceries, I basically have to lift the car into the driveway and carry in the groceries. Has that been a similar struggle with you where people just take one look at you and they just assume that you can do favors for them?
No, it's funny because I have no grip strength in my hands
Oh.
at all. I literally wrap my hands for everything that I do for my workout. So I have to ask people to open my water bottles for me. So yeah, nobody asked me to do.
Think about the amount of think about just that sight would be if you had someone like her come up to you and ask her, "Hey, can you help me open this water bottle or something like that?" That okay, but okay. In hindsight, though, that probably makes the person's day, though. So then they're like, "Oh my god, this bodybuilder couldn't open her stuff, so I had to open it up for her. I feel so great." So that actually is actually helping out other people. So that's probably the best answer that we've ever had. Because I always say, like being 6'3", that's a double edged sword. Where I mean, just looking at me, I could have zero muscle at all, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, tall guy can do this, tall guy can do that." So yeah, well, and
Even groceries when I get home, I'll usually try to carry like the 6, 7, 8 bags in myself, and then my husband and the 4 kids they'll run out. I got it, I got it. I'm like, I got it. I can do one trip. I got
yeah,
this.
yeah. Well, and now, since you are out and about, I always like to ask the question. I mean, when you look the way that you look, it's not the average look. So you are going to get sometimes some stares and you are going to get some looks. I mean, both positive and negative. But what has that adjustment been like going from that being the fact that, I mean, when you go out, I mean, you're kind of, I always like to say, you're kind of like a human art exhibit where, I mean, people just take looks at you. I mean, they might not even be trying to be rude or they might not trying to be, but it's just human nature when they see something that's not of the norm to just kind of just take a double take and just be like, oh, that's interesting. What has that experience been like?
Well, when I'm with my husband, it's embarrassing because he literally calls guys out on it. He's like, "Yeah, you like that? She works hard for that. Yeah, take a better look, buddy." And I'm just like, "Seriously, can you not?" Or when we're shopping, he'll walk far back behind me so that people think he's not with me, and then he'll watch them, and then he calls them out, and he's like, "Yeah, look at that. She's hot. I'm like, "Seriously, can you stop?" Even my sons, like, they're like, "Mom, stop, you're embarrassing me." Or he'll be like, "Babe, just lift your shirt up and show them your abs." And I'm just like, "Can you not? I don't want to show my abs right now." He'll be like, "Just flex for them." I'm like, "No, I don't want to flex for these people." So I'm still like, I'm still shy,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's something. It's something to adapt to.
Oh, I always say the biggest adjustment for me was whenever I'd go to clubs, I just getting asked to arm wrestle all the time too. That's just
I People ask me that. They're like, "Do you want to arm wrestle?" I'm like, No, I don't. That's gonna end up hurting my elbow."
oh yeah, well yeah, that's one thing that I've really, really, really struggled with as well. But now for the second question, I mean, this is again a multi-million-dollar idea that I say, every single time I ask this. When it comes to clothes for fit women, I always say fit guys have their own problems, but fit women have their own problems. When it comes to clothes, yep, we get that reaction every single time. When it comes, I always say if you have big, broad shoulders, dresses aren't your best friend. Jeans are another thing that we hear of all the time, where if you have a big lower body and a small waist, jeans are not made for that. What have been some ways that you've found that you're able to compensate for the fact that, especially when you're on prep or even when you're, in off season shape, your clothing options can be very limited?
Yes. So black leggings, always a go-to. And sleeveless dresses. And I buy stretchy jeans. I see women all the time and they walk up to me and they'll grab my pants and they're like, "How are you wearing pants right now?" What if we go to a fitness place and there's another fit girl? She'll come to me, "How are you wearing pants?" I'm like, "They're stretchy jeans." And they look the same, but yeah, definite struggle for sure.
I had two fashion guys on the podcast, and I always told them, I said, "Hey, I have so many of these guests come on that really just need their some like fitness fashion wear. So hopefully some of them get on that." But now I like to talk about this towards the end. Now you're a mom of four, okay? First of all, that's just impressive in and of itself. But still being able to maintain this lifestyle, what are some tips and tricks that you have for moms out there who are just even looking to get into shape?
Well, the most thing I always hear is I don't have the time, or I'm taking time away from my children, or I feel guilty, or stuff like that. Honey, if you do not take time for yourself and put yourself first and make happiness a priority, guess what? Your kids are not happy, and neither is anyone else around you. So you'll be happier spending that 30 minutes with your kid instead of, "Oh, I got to spend 30 minutes with my kid. I don't even want to be here. I want to be at the gym." Like, take the time for yourself, even if it's 30 minutes, 3 times a week, doing something you enjoy, even if it's not fitness. Find something you enjoy to make yourself happy, or like I said, your kids are going to be miserable, and so are you.
Well, how important is it for you two to also set that positive example for your kids? Because I had a guy come on who was talking about, one of the reasons why the obesity crisis is happening is because people might take a look at their parents, and if their parents are out of shape, then they're more likely to be out of shape growing up. But if you have a strong and fit parent, you are vastly more likely to maintain a healthy lifestyle later on in life. How important is that for you to set that positive example for your kids as well?
Very important nowadays, especially. There's more and more people our age and younger that are more into fitness than going to the bars. Where when I was growing up, everyone wanted to get drunk and party. Now I'm seeing everyone wanting to get fit and healthy. So it's totally flipping. So it is a huge important in our life. And my kids all come to my studio with me. I have a 17-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 4-year-old. All of them are in that weight room. Whether they're doing a TRX class, my 4-year-old will walk in. "Do you want me to show you how to do push-ups? I'll show you how to do push-ups." Like, he loves it. Chin-ups. He's like, "Can I do my chin-ups now, Mom? Can I do my workout?" He's in gymnastics. The other three aren't in anything, but they are. Sorry, the oldest is in soccer. And my husband also coaches their soccer team. So not only are we running the studio, he's also twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week now, coaching a soccer team because they had no coach. So he just volunteered and got thrown into that.
I always say, me and my friends have always made the joke, our future investment would be a gym bar. You just go to a gym and then afterwards you have a beer and just congratulate yourself on working. I was gonna say that's all that since a lot of people are working out. But now before we wrap things up, I always sort of like to do like a fun little questionnaire, sort of like a getting to know you, where I'll just ask you about a half a dozen or so, sort of like quick fire questions where it'll be sort of like our getting to know you part. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Anything Rob Bailey.
That's a good answer. I mean, I was gonna say I'm more of a cheesy where I gotta have my cheesy '80s music. Where I mean, it's got to be like we're talking like White Snake, like Journey. But I have a problem. So like I have a gym at home, which is nice. When I say a gym, I basically mean it's enough to maintain a pump. That's basically what I say about it. But so when I do go to a normal gym though, I'm one of those guys where I gotta wait for the beat to drop. So if I'm doing like a lat pull down, I've had times where I'm just like that for like 30 seconds, and then people come up to me and be like, "Hey, dude, are you all right? Did you like pull out your back or something?" And I'm just like, "Nope, just waiting for the beat to drop." So I am known throughout my gym as the guy that waits for the beat to drop. But hey, I take that with pride. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge at all times?
Always have to have in my fridge.
Hmm.
Um, oh gosh, I would say at least chicken.
Chicken, yep. Yep, I can guarantee. I mean, I always right before I go to work, I always put a chicken in the oven, and then as soon as I come home, that thing is gonna. I mean, that thing's been in there for like 7 hours, but then I just reheat it again just to get it all nice and good. But now I gotta ask: are you in the part of Canada that has milk in bags?
Yes.
That's the one part about Canada that I could never understand, because I know that I've talked to people from like Vancouver and Calgary, and they think that that's as foreign as I do, and then I'm like, really, the milk in bags? So I find that super. How strong is the bags that they put the milk in? Is it like super strong, like you couldn't like poke a hole in it or anything?
You could poke a hole in it if you really tried, but you got to cut it with scissors for sure to open it.
I've always found that so interesting. I've always wanted, because I've never been up to Canada, but I've always wanted to go there. I had a friend that just went to Banff and Calgary, and I was gonna go with him, but then I had to work. But I've always, if I always went, I'd always want to go to the place that sells bags milk and just be like, oh, that's just, yeah, that is definitely a fascinating thing that I think is different from Canada and America. That's probably the biggest thing for me, at least, is the bagged milk. But moving on in the questionnaire, out of all of your followers that you have on Instagram, what is one thing that you think they'd be most surprised of if they met you in person?
Um, Most surprised of that I do have no, they would know that on Instagram. That I'm shy. Yeah, I show that I have a lot of confidence. I'm very shy and I'm not a people person. And I was told to change my story and don't say that because yeah, they're like, no, you're confident and you're a people person. So that's supposed to be my story because if you keep saying the other one, then it's always going to be that way, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and do you think that going on stage and being a bodybuilder, you think that's really helped you though with your shyness and your confidence, just being able? Because let's face it, like I say, 95% of the general public, well, I say 99% of this, would not be willing to go up on stage in basically a bikini and pose in front of people. It takes such confidence and determination. Do you think that that's really helped in your overall shyness?
Absolutely. And then even after the show, walking around backstage with all the other men and women, like I'm just like, are they looking at me? What was my first show? Now I'm just walking around. I'm like, I don't even care if they are because we're all there. We all smell like sweat. The tan, like this tan smell. Oh, I hate it. We all smell like sweat. We all are there doing our thing and we all just want to win. Like we want to show our best physique and that's what we're there for. So it's definitely helped a lot with, like I said, now I can walk into a room and there's still some days where I'm like, are they talking about me? And then I gotta like talk to myself, and it's like, well, I don't really care if they are because that again, at the end of the day, I'm going home to me. I got to be happy. I don't care if they talk about me because they're not with me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the last few questions of the questionnaire. So, what is one thing, if someone were to walk up to you and say, Sarah, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you would like to see changed about the sport?
Um, there's a lot of shows nowadays. Like there's literally a show almost every weekend, and I feel like if they just did them not as many, that I don't know. There's like you can just get your pro card so easy basically because there's like a show. So if they made it that like only like 3-4 times a year, I feel like the pro shows would be even bigger than they are. But then again, then you're looking for a long show if there's that many people competing. So I don't really know what I
That's
would
gonna
do.
be like a week-long show basically if you're gonna have then like everyone, yeah. But yeah, I totally agree with that too. And then another thing for me too is that just to have like more defined characteristics of what the judges are looking for. Because if you go to one show one weekend and another show the next, they could be looking for an entirely different package where it's like, oh well, you want me to become leaner over a span of 1 week then to look for that show? I mean, that's one thing that I've heard all the time, and that's the one thing that I always say to myself is that just find a more common ground where they're like, this is what we want for our look, not just like one judge. Oh, I want a little bit more muscular look. Oh, I want a more shredded look. I want a more vascular look. Where it's just like, come on, just find out what you want, basically.
If they can definitely tell you at the beginning of the show what they were looking for when you register, that would be super helpful because, like you just said, that's been my issue. My coach is always like, you need to be leaner. I'm like, I'm the leanest one on stage. I need to be bigger. I'm the smallest. I need to be bigger.
Hmm.
So that's our goal for this year. We're gonna, like I said, I was doing three shows a year. So I've done 6 in 2 years. And every time I would just start to put size on, I would start to cut. So I've never actually put big size on, even though I've had good growth and good transformation over the 2 years. I haven't had a full year to put size on. So we're going to take a whole year, put size on, and see what I can do next June.
That's awesome. So now the last two questions of the questionnaire. If you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
Um, I would have started back then for sure. And I would have
You'd be like 200 pounds of muscle now if you started back when you were like 18.
walking around that big. I would say, like, don't think you're stupid. I always put myself down. I always thought I was stupid and that I couldn't do things. And I've just learned over this last year that I'm a very smart girl and I can do anything I want and some. And I'm very strong. And again, I never thought any of this. I always thought I was no good or just whatever. Now I'm like, F you, I am good.
Mhm.
I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. I've got this. I can do anything. So I would say, like, apply yourself now, not then. Like, don't waste your time.
Mhm.
Put everything into it.
And if we were to talk to you a year from today, I know you said you want to take a year off to just train and get bigger and stronger, but what are some goals that you'd like to have achieved with, I mean, Fierce Fitness, with just your overall life? If we were to talk a year from today, where would you like to be at?
Absolutely. So I'm looking to do a 24-hour access at my studio because we do close down in the afternoon from 11:30 to 3:30, and we close at 8:30 at night. On weekends, we're only open till 11:30. So a lot of people work shifts, works, and everything, and we close. So that doesn't allow them to come in. I want to be able to eliminate all excuses. We have child minding on site. We have weight room, toning classes, cardio room, personal training, nutrition courses, nutrition programs. We have everything. We just aren't 24 hours. So I want to be 24 hours by next year. I don't want to be working. I don't want my husband there working as much as he is. So I want more trainers, 24-hour access. I want my pro card. There is more, but I forget.
Yeah. What's the address of Fierce Fitness in case anyone in the Canada or the Ontario area is watching this?
So it's 205
Mhm.
Forest Street East, Dunnville, Ontario, N1A 3G5.
All right, I'm just writing that down right now. So when this gets published, it will be on the screen right there, so people can go and check that out if they are interested. And now, lastly, is there anything, or lastly, is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Absolutely. My husband, Timothy Burke, for always supporting me,
And
loving me,
calling out the creepers of the stairs in public.
and encouraging me, always keeping me going, motivated. And I would really like to shout out Sarah Hauser. She is the girl I'm going to be coaching for figure, and she's always been there since day one. My little cheerleader, following me. She loves to just watch me pose. We'll be working out, and I'll start posing, and she's literally there. She's like, "I'm sorry, I'm like a creeper watching you, but I just love watching you." She buys me gifts every show. I'm like, you don't need to buy me gifts. Like, she's just so proud of me. And I'm very proud of her. The transformation she's done in the 3 weeks for her goals for figure has blown my mind. And I'm like so stoked to do this with her. And then one more person is Nana, is what I call her. Marsha, one of my Zumba instructors. She's bought me both my bikinis for both my shows. They're both over $1,000 bikinis. And she's been there for every show, been there again, buying me gifts, supporting me, encouraging me, watching me. She's 55, 56, and she tells everyone when she grows up she wants to be me. So those three are basically my cheerleaders, my cheer squad. I love them. They're amazing, and I couldn't do this without them.
And that's so awesome. And again, you guys, go and give Sarah a follow. I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. And if you're in the Ontario area, go to Fierce Fitness. Check that out. I highly, highly recommend it. And Sarah, we cannot thank you enough for being on the podcast. And everyone, if they're talking about, oh, she did it at a restaurant, she has 4 kids, okay? She has enough busy a schedule enough as it is. So we cannot thank her enough for coming on. I know that you said that you're shy. So again, thank you for coming on too and just sharing your story. It was just such a great story. And it was so much fun having you on and talking with you about your journey. And really, I cannot appreciate you enough coming on the show.
Thank you so much. And that's why it took me so long to do it. I kept telling my husband, I'm like, I can't do it. I'm like, it's going to be my face on there. I got to talk to him. And he's like, just do it. And I'm like, okay, we're doing this. So thank you so much for having me on. This is awesome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, you guys, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.